There's an odd thing. With the US presidential election, right, it's just 10 months away now, the media coverage is dominated by stories about Donald Trump, who's the likely challenger, and it's almost nothing about Joe Biden, who actually is the president right now. It's like the election is about whether voters want Trump or not. It's not whether Biden deserves a second go. It's like the invisible president, not there, a non-entity. He's the absent president. In fact, that could almost be literally true. Because you take the last month, the 81-year-old leader of the most powerful nation on earth has taken 4 short holidays over that time, plus weekends, not held a single White House event so far this year, which is weird when the US is now facing 3 hot wars at the moment, Ukraine, Gaza, Red Sea against the Houthis, and when Iran is fired at or near a US consulate in Iraq this week. So what's the story with this president? Let's cross to Peter Doocy, the Fox News White House correspondent, following Joe Biden at the moment. I've wanted to talk to Peter for a while because no other White House reporter can cut through the White House spin so clearly with just one question. I'll just give you one example. Peter questioning the White House spokesman about Biden's boast on stopping inflation. He's done it. And also a hint of what Joe Biden thinks of Peter's scrutiny.
On lowering prices, you said earlier that the actions the president has taken have worked. So is it your sense that when people were home for Thanksgiving, catching up with their family members, they were saying to each other, can you believe how much more affordable things have gotten?
So honestly, I wouldn't, I hear the question, but I want to make sure this is very clear. We take that very seriously.
Will you take questions on inflation then?
Let's move. Thank you. Thank you all.
Do you think inflation is a political liability?
That's a great asset. More inflation. What a stupid son of a...
I talked to Peter Doocy a short while ago. Peter Doocy, thank you so much for your time. I see you've had to pull over. You're chasing down the president, which comes to this point, actually, because I see Donald Trump at this end of the world anyway, making constant speeches. I see him constantly campaigning. I see him constantly in court making speeches and et cetera. But I don't see Joe Biden much at all. What is he doing?
It's been pretty extraordinary, Andrew, because we're almost 3 weeks into the new year, which is an election year, and the president, Biden, still has not had any official events, any public events at all at the White House. And I've been with him the whole time since Inauguration Day. That's very unusual. He does have a few stops in swing states. We saw him pop up at a business in Pennsylvania. He's going to be here in North Carolina tomorrow to give remarks in a electorally competitive place later this year. But nothing at the White House, despite everything that is going on. And so that just seems to be the strategy. They want to show him out and about and not at the White House. Maybe it's a way for them to look forward as opposed to look, hey, there's the guy in charge of the policies that maybe are not very popular right now, according to the polls. But there has not been much to start the year, at least.
Yeah, but I don't quite get. There is a reality behind the spin, of course, because I notice from your reporting that he's taken, about 4 short holidays over the last month and a bit. He's taken weekends off, of course. I know it's been Christmas and all that, but still, you've got several hot wars going on in the world for a start. Does this guy look flat out?
Well, it was kind of weird because the year ended, 2023 ended with constant warnings. I sit there in the briefing room listening to them talking about how there is great urgency to fund the wars in Ukraine and in Israel, or else things are not going to go the way the U.S. wants. But here we are, like almost a month later, 3 weeks into the new year, and there's no movement on any of it. And it's not just because things are all jammed up on Capitol Hill. President Biden hasn't given any meaningful remarks about any of it. They are choosing not to focus on really any of the big, heavy issues. It seems to us like they would rather just have the Republicans kind of start their nominating process, let Donald Trump suck up all the oxygen. There's a piece in the New York Times today that they would rather have Donald Trump as their opponent because they think that he is the weakest, even though pretty much every poll that is out there right now, except for one of Pennsylvania, has Trump with a noticeable lead over Biden if the election was held today.
Do you trust those polls?
No, I don't think so. And it really does seem like it's so early and so much is unknown. People in the states just have not been paying attention yet. There are some very motivated Republicans in these early states like Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, who have been paying close attention. But right now, people are mostly focused on like the American football playoffs and flight delays. Those are the two big things coming out of the holidays that have been chewing up all of the attention among people, much more than politics this time, which, again, that's unusual. If President Biden was out there campaigning, we would be there covering him. We would be talking about it. And he just hasn't been doing it.
But this goes to my point, really, doesn't it? That the election seems increasingly not to be about Joe Biden so much. He's trying to absent himself. It's like the President Chancey is just being there. He doesn't want people to actually look at him. It has to be about whether or not you like Donald Trump. It's really weird. But looking at President Biden, 81, is this the man who could do the job of president for another 4 years? And aren't Democrats getting a little bit worried about exactly that question?
Well, publicly, you won't hear anything really from any of the prominent Democrats. And privately, a lot of them concede that it's too late to really change course. Their only option is if, for some reason, President Biden has a health problem or a moral crisis and decides he is too old and he wants to step aside, they need to do something at the convention. That's not until this summer, though. So they are, and also nobody has really been running an effective shadow campaign to be the person that slides right in if there is an issue at the convention or by the convention. And so he's 81. He's got a lot of problems politically. His age is not one of the problems that he can do anything about. And unfortunately, even though about 3/4 of people polled, anytime that they poll it, think he is too old for a second term, he's not getting any younger, and he won't before the election.
What is his big pitch for re-election then?
That he is the only one who can preserve American democracy. They're running less and less on issues of the economy because even though they do pick some statistics that they think are favorable to their side over what Republicans are proposing and over what Donald Trump did even before the pandemic kind of wiped out everything economically, they think that January 6th is proof that Donald Trump is a danger to the American system. And we expect to hear a ton more about that. That really is everything that we hear behind the scenes, what they want this election to be about. Joe Biden, pro-democracy. Donald Trump, anti-democracy.
Well, there again, it's about Donald Trump. The election's about Donald Trump and a president who isn't
Absolutely.
there. Just lastly, Peter, I showed some footage at the top, of you having one of your many terrific little stand-ups against the White House press spokesperson, and then President Biden's frank and fearless hot mic assessment of your kind of questioning. I've loved it. I think it's terrific. But being a Fox News correspondent from a conservative news outlet in a White House press corps that probably leans pretty much left, how tricky has that been?
I think the trickiest part is just getting Biden's attention and getting in front of him. Nobody's ever going to be happy necessarily with everything that we are asking about because they all have editors too. They need to cover topics maybe that they're more interested in than we are. The toughest thing, though, kind of to everything that we've been talking about, Andrew, is that there are fewer and fewer opportunities to get in front of President Biden. The first year that he was there, we had a lot of opportunities. The second year, a lot of opportunities. The third year, fewer. And this fourth year so far, barely any. And so we hope that changes. There's a lot that we want to know about his opinion concerning, but it's getting tough. And we don't really know why. We have a lot of guesses, but we don't really know why that is.
Well, I think conspiracies rush in where there's a vacuum, and some of them might actually be on the money. Peter Doocy, thank you so much for your time. We look to your spots on Fox News with great interest, and keep on plugging away.
We will. Thank you so much, Andrew.